Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive.
Always a pleasure to be back.
I was looking through our listener questions, and this one really caught my eye.
Oh, let's hear it.
It's about Islamic studies
hmm
and whether it can, legitimately be considered a social science.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Right. At first, I thought, well, isn't that just like an academic debate? But the more I thought about it, the more I realized, it actually gets us some pretty fundamental stuff about how we understand both Islam, A-N-D, the wider world.
Yeah, it kind of forces us to confront some assumptions we might have about faith and, how it interacts with more like secular ways of looking at the world.
Totally. So I figured, why not dive in and see what we can uncover?
I'm game if you are.
Awesome. But before we get too deep, maybe we should just level set a bit. What exactly are we even talking about when we say social science? I get that it involves studying people, but is there more to it than that?
Yeah, it's definitely not just about people watching. Though I guess observation is part of it. Social science is really all about trying to understand like the patterns of human behavior in groups, right? How societies work, how cultures develop, what makes institutions tick. And the key is that it tries to do this systematically using, methods and stuff that we consider like scientific.
Okay, so things like collecting data,
Yeah.
maybe running experiments, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. And that's where it gets interesting with Islamic studies, right? Because on the one hand, you can definitely see how parts of it could fit under that umbrella.
Right, like we're talking about how Muslims live their lives, how communities function, things like religious practice and social norms. That all seems pretty social to me.
And you'd be right. I mean, there are tons of scholars in Islamic studies who are using these like classic social science methods
Mm.
to study those exact things.
Like what? Give me an example.
Okay, so let's say we're interested in Muslim political participation, right? A social scientist might use surveys to like track voting patterns in a Muslim majority country or, do interviews to understand how Muslims in a diaspora community engage with like the local political system.
Oh, I see. So they're looking at how faith intersects with those broader social and political forces.
Exactly. Or you could even use, economic data to analyze how Islamic principles of finance might influence entrepreneurship or charitable giving within a Muslim community.
That's super interesting. But here's where I get a little tripped up. Islamic studies also deals with, theology, scripture, stuff that feels a lot more, I don't know, spiritual. How does that fit into the, empirical world of social science?
You've hit the nail on the head. And that's part of what makes Islamic studies so like complex and frankly so cool. It's not easily confined to one neat little box. It pulls from history, from philosophy, from law, from, the study of sacred texts, and yes, also from those social science perspectives.
So maybe it's not an either situation, right? It's more like a Venn diagram with a lot of overlap.
I like that analogy.
But okay, let's say that's true. Does it even really matter how we classify it? Is this whole social science debate just academics, like splitting hairs?
Well, I think categories matter more than we sometimes realize because they can shape how we approach a subject, right? What
Right.
kinds of questions we ask, what methods we think are valid.
That's true. Like if we decide that Islamic studies, IS, a social science, does that open up new avenues for research?
Potentially, yeah. It could influence how research is funded, how it's taught in universities.
Mm.
But I think more importantly, it pushes us to grapple with this like bigger question about how we reconcile faith and secular scholarship.
Hmm. That IS a big one.
hmm
But I'm curious, how does all this theoretical stuff actually impact,
Yeah.
people outside of academia? Does it have real world implications?
Absolutely. Like, let's say we want to, I don't know, develop more effective social programs for Muslim communities or, create more culturally sensitive healthcare policies.
Yeah.
Well, understanding the social and cultural nuances of those communities, which is where Islamic studies comes in, that can be like essential to making those programs actually work.
Wow. When we started this deep dive, I wasn't sure where we were going to end up, but this has been seriously mind expanding.
I'm glad to hear it.
And it leaves me wondering if Islamic studies can be looked at through this social science lens. What about other religious traditions? Could we apply those same tools to Christianity or Buddhism or Hinduism?
That's such a great question, and honestly, one that deserves its own deep dive. What do you think, listeners?
Hit us up in the comments. We love hearing your thoughts.
And don't forget to like and subscribe for more thought-provoking content.
Thanks for joining us on this journey.
Until next time.
See ya.